And so then it comes to very personally, I just got tired of working for other people. I've made a lot of people a lot of money. Like I look at Microsoft, where we first met when I was at Microsoft. I helped Power Platform go from nothing, like it was just a code name. I need to do this for me. I can bet on me, and I can
Yeah.
produce this value for me.
Today on the podcast, we'll be talking to Jon Levesque, a longtime community builder who's gone from leading dev engagement at Microsoft and DocuSign to founding a startup that's trying to rethink how we discover and book real-world experiences. And before we get into your background, Jon, I did want to bring up that you were one of my interviewees for my dissertation. I feel like it brings it full circle because I was talking to evangelists, talking about like their careers and what they find fulfilling, and also just like how they relate to communities and building communities. So I think it's great to talk to you. So how does it feel like, because I know I interviewed you in 2021, so looking back, like things have changed for you and for me, right?
Yeah, it's funny because I think when we talked last, Ryan, I was about to shift jobs or had just shifted jobs. I can't remember what it was, but I went from evangelist to head of community and community director. And so a lot shifted for me since then. And looking back on it, I think it was a good shift and not a good shift, right? I think getting away from evangelism probably got a bit away from my core meaning. Like I love doing evangelism. I love sharing things I'm excited about. And so it was interesting to leave that. Looking back now, it definitely was a whole shift in who I am. And what drove it was, opportunity, money. Like, oh, if I go be a head or a director or a senior director, whatever, I can make more money. Right. And so that was definitely the push. And so I think I got away from self-meaning and chase some money. And now, funny enough, coming full circle, creating my own product, I think it's my job to be the evangelist again in a big way.
Yeah, and I think it'd be helpful for people listening, maybe never heard of the term evangelism. Can you briefly just kind of talk about what it really means in practice? Like it's not religious, correct? Like I just want people to kind of have a good understanding of the term.
Totally. Yeah. And so I think, obviously when people think of evangelists, there is a religious connotation. There are some
Mhm.
roots in this, a person going from place to place, sharing the good news. If you look up the definition in the dictionary, that's one of them. And so essentially, it is a similar idea, a person going around sharing something very publicly, very vocally, right? And so in my case, it's technology. I've been a technology evangelist. And so, very practically, what that means is I help people understand the benefits of technology, how it applies to them, and what types of things, changes, experiences they can expect from applying that technology in their life in those ways. And so, I think there definitely is those religious roots to the word, but practically today, it is applied very differently.
Well, and I think that's really helpful just in terms of like the skills that you're using in evangelism. And I think a lot of people in their careers could use some type of like evangelism to really either promote themselves or their businesses. So I think it's good to kind of see that. So I did want to talk briefly about Seek. It's Seek, correct? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did want to ask you more about that and why you chose to focus on discovering experience and just tell a little bit more about what it is and what it means to be a startup founder.
Yeah. Well, so I'll start with the first part of the question. Seek is
Mhm.
a brand new app, and I'm calling it the world's first experience network. It's something that lives somewhere in the middle of travel and discovery, what you know
Mhm.
today as like Yelp and TripAdvisor and Google Local and all the things that allow you to travel and find, and a social network like Instagram or TikTok, something where you consume media to potentially get to the same outcome, just a different channel, right? And so I believe that Seek sits right at the intersection of these two things. And so what we're doing very tactically is we're allowing creators, video creators to start off, to upload their videos to Seek. We have an AI that we've created which will take those videos and turn them into shoppable itineraries. So now, like, instead of going through Instagram and looking at a video and thinking, oh my gosh, that adventure would be so cool, how do I do that? And then having to go into 30 hours of research to figure out how to do that thing, you could then go right to Seek. That video lives there, and all of the details are there. Now, it's not only just the details, the coolest part is it's actually shoppable. You could go ahead and
Mhm.
book that hotel. You could go ahead and book that ticket to the Coliseum. You could go ahead and book that tour you saw. And so now it takes something, this creator knowledge, and
Mhm.
something that either of us, them or us, would have to put tons of hours into to turn it into something that's useful. And our AI actually does that automatically in about 1 minute.
I could definitely see the need for it, like, because I kind of consider what is it? I know that there's a way that, like, for instance, like an influencer celebrity has like they wear certain clothing, maybe it's like a jacket. People are like, well, what are they wearing? What are they wearing? Like, how do I get this? So it's like they do like maybe a Google lens or reverse search, and then they have to like go and find the product that way. So I'm
Yep.
assuming like it kind of works in a similar way where you're trying to make that much easier from like an audience that follows maybe creators, and then it's a better way to like
Exactly.
connect like
Exactly.
products,
You
experiences.
you see a creator you love, they travel the
Yep.
world, they do it in the way that you want to do it. And
Mhm,
now you go ahead and just use our AI, essentially
mhm.
watches the video for you, finds every location,
Yep.
makes an itinerary, and then loads it with the ability for you to book it. So it is that same idea of you would watch it and do it yourself. We're just offloading that work to AI.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting when you kinda put it, like, in words like that, and that make it just like this experience, it's really interesting.
Yeah.
But I did wanna talk more career-wise, though, in terms of, like because it does seem like this is quite a project, like, it's using AI, it's using it's a very tech-heavy type of product.
Yeah.
So what's your day-to-day like now as a startup founder?
Emotional.
Yeah.
uh you know um Man, it's everything. Like, I mean, I started off this morning talking to my CTO about what bugs he's squashing today. I talked to my PM about how do I keep my designer ahead of my dev. I then called my designer to give her a heads up on all the work items that my PM is going to be creating. I am pitching podcasts, probably 20 or 30 a day. I am collecting creator info because we're right now in an internal testing phase. Like, we went into internal alpha. Probably in a week from now, I want to start inviting creators to the platform. And so I'm collecting creator information. Like, I used AI to create a scraping tool for Instagram so I can go through and grab creator bio info. I'm having phone calls with investors. I am doing startup meetings. Like, bro, I have 1,000 different hats on all the time, and like, it's chaos and it's so stressful. But like, it's almost like getting into a car crash and then like someone be like, "You want to do it again?" And you're like, "Yeah." Like, that's kind of what it feels like every day.
Yeah, no, I think that's maybe a good way to like put like the phrase the grind of startup culture and just how what the day to day is like. But I do wonder, like, you talked, it seems negative in some ways, but I know you're telling me it's not. But I wonder, like, what makes this fulfilling? Like, what makes this stress, this daily stress that you deal with, like, worth it?
Man, I think, it's a couple of things. One, it kind of comes back to the earlier question you asked of like, what why do I focus on this discovery and experience? And I think like what makes it worth it is I believe that I am going to create a new model to make it easier for people to experience life. And
Mhm.
in my opinion, like, more people need more experience of life. They need to do more things. They need to see more things. They need to try more things. And a lot of the times, the research that I've done shows that people get paralyzed by the choice, they get paralyzed by the work, and they don't go do the things because it's too hard to figure out what to do. And so I think part of it is that, right? Like, I really believe in the mission. I really want to change this. I really want to have people experience in the world in the ways I've gotten to experience the world, because I it's meant a lot to me and it's changed me and it's done things for me. And I believe that if more people do that, like, more people's minds will be opened, and it's just a better thing for us as humanity. Also, like, I think that AI is changing everything and I'm using it, right? I'm using it every
Yep.
day. I've talked about it a couple of times. But also, I think there's this paradox that I'm trying to also shine a light on, where there's a lot of people who are going to be winners from AI. I'm one of them. I choose to be. I'm going to ride that wave. There's a lot of people who like aren't paying attention, and by the time they do, the wave's going to overtake them and they're going to lose from AI. And so I think that if I can give more people an avenue to monetize, to take the knowledge they have and to earn from it, and peel off from these huge monoliths, Yelp and Google making billions every year off creator knowledge and sharing nothing. I think that that's the right cause. I think that that's the right thing to do. And so then it comes to very personally, I just got tired of working for other people. I've made a lot of people a lot of money. Like I look at Microsoft, where we first met when I was at Microsoft. I helped Power Platform go from nothing, like it was just a code name, to over $1 billion a year in revenue, right? Like my community led growth efforts helped create that monster, like that monolith, right? And so I just got to the point where I kept seeing that I was creating so much value for these companies, DocuSign, Microsoft, HTC, all these companies. And it was like, I need to do this for me. I can bet on me and I can
Yeah.
produce this value for me. And so you add all this up, right? And I think I was tired of the corporate grind. I wanted to do something different. And I really believe in this problem, in fixing
Yeah.
this problem.
Well, and I appreciate that. I think it really kind of speaks to like the passion you have, and you can definitely see like the evangelism like in your voice that you believe this does solve a problem. And I do agree. Like, there's a lot of these like travel giants like like take over the space quite often. So I think this is a good transition to maybe looking a little back before you worked in tech. Because I'm interested in kind of what careers interested you before that. Because I know you mentioned you did mention on LinkedIn once, I think it's a few days ago, that your mom wanted you to be a missionary. And I think it's kind of interesting now that you're like a tech evangelist. But I do wonder, kind of like looking back then and now, and like how you kind of how you could kind of speak to that.
When I was young, I never really knew what I wanted to do. I was kind of a shitty kid. I had a really tough upbringing. And so that, like, my parents were not present. And for many years of my life they were pretty bad people. And then they found God, and they still weren't great people. And
Yeah.
so, like, I never knew what I wanted to do until I was probably 20. But I knew that I didn't want to do hard labor because my dad was a carpenter and my grandfather was a lumberjack, and they were hard men, and their bodies were broken, and they had sacrificed themselves to earn a meager pittance, right? And I just knew that I didn't want that. Well, you know, mom had her ideas, wanted me to be a pastor. Uh, that was a ever present thing throughout my life. Funny enough, like I tried it. I went and did the church thing and became a pastor for a minute. It just
Okay.
didn't fit. It wasn't for me. I'm not into religion. No offense to people who are, but like I just kind of worked my way through. I read the book a bunch of times. I saw all the questions, that there were more questions than answers, and for me,
Absolutely.
I found that like I can't leave those questions open and be okay. There's every road ended at, well, you just got to have faith. And for me, that was just like not an acceptable ending. And so I had to, I moved past all that. And now I would call myself, I don't know, agnostic, atheist, whatever, like somewhere in between all that. But I think, if I look back at like when I started to actually decide what I wanted to be, I knew I wanted to work with people. And I fell into working with people because I actually got into tech. I started with help desk, it moved into servers, it moved into networking. I became a Cisco CCNA. Tech was like the path I chose eventually, but then marketing slapped me across the face. One day I was hanging out with the marketing team at HTC. HTC, they used to make phones, now they make VR headsets. Um, and I was hanging out there, and there's the marketing team, and the guy, I'm listening to them talk, and I figure out that these guys are making just as much money talking about the technology than the people doing the technology.
Yeah.
And in my mind, I was like, well, I'm way better at talking than doing. And so I want to go do this.
Yeah.
And so that's when it started to shift for me into this idea of marketing. And then, I fell into community somehow. I got an opportunity through my work at HTC to go do some early community work at Microsoft. And
Yeah.
that's really where it all began. It kind of just kept building from there. Microsoft kept asking me to build communities for them.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I appreciate you putting that in full circle because I do relate. I grew up a Southern Baptist, so I definitely share those religious experiences, questions, transitions, similar to careers. There's tons of transitions and as well. And I think also just like in the religious kind of growing up religious, I think there's this notion about careers are sometimes like tied to like religion, and that you have to have a career that lifts up the Lord, or one that is
Mhm,
like kind of help the religious community or Christian community.
mhm,
Like you want to be in a good example of that. So I do think there's like that part of like I don't know what you would call it, but not. It's almost like you're letting people down or letting the people you grew up down because you're saying,
yep,
oh, I want to work
yep.
for money, not I don't want to be a missionary or pastor or whatever else. So I think there is like that part of it that does affect us in some ways, and I don't know if that's really brought up enough.
I
But
think I talk about that a lot, and I think in the same exact post that I talk about mom wanting me to be a missionary
yeah,
or a pastor, I end it with, you have to choose your path. You let them
right.
choose theirs and you choose yours. And like that's what I did. And I know that's so hard for some people. And I
Yeah.
know this is way off where we're supposed to be, but I think it's
No,
so
this is great.
important
It's great.
for people to choose who they want to be and to go their own way. We Life is short. We get to live it one time, I think. And so it is paramount to make sure that your life is your own.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think even from like an academic standpoint, I think there's some relations too. Like, because I grew up with this idea, like I want to do a career that makes people happy, maybe for my family. When you get into academia, like you're working with an advisor for a couple years, maybe even like 3 or 4 years. And then if you want to make the decision to change the new career path, maybe leave academia, there is that feeling like I want to make my advisor happy. I don't want to leave my students. So there is like a lot on your shoulders to make this switch. So I think there is a lot to like really relate, even from like PhDs I might be listening as well. So and I think that's really kind of the point of the podcast is just like these tough transitions and like how we kind of think about them and like how we even put them into words so others can maybe like have that confidence to make that change.
Yeah.
And on that point, I do want to ask, like, do you have any tips for people that are making the transition? Ideally, I think from maybe the corporate life to like startup culture to building a startup, because that is quite a big leap, especially like if you have a family to provide for, maybe there's other factors as well. I'm just happy to kind of hear what your thoughts on that, and just making the smoothest transition that might not be as stressful.
Yeah. My advice would be build it at night.
Mhm.
Sacrifice your personal life for a
Yeah,
while, right? Like the best way to do this, I think, is like while you have something safe, right? You
mm,
have a job that's working, build a startup at night. Don't watch TV, don't go hang with your friends, don't play video games, build shit, right? Like and if you can do that, I think that you can offset, right? You can build a new runway while bringing down the other. And if you can accomplish that, I think that's the key. Now, for me, I was attempting to do that. I was starting to do that, and then I got laid off. And
yeah,
so at this point now, what I am doing is I'm going 100%. Now, I think for some people, it would probably cause them a panic, like they would have to go get another job. And that is one option, right? You can go back to that method that I just said is the ideal. Have another job, continue to build at night. For me, I just knew that I 100% am supposed to be this person. I
mm,
made the decision to create a startup before the job was gone, and the job leaving does not change who I am supposed to be.
yeah,
It just creates a different set of circumstances that I have to deal with. Now, I am fortunate in that like I've done well and I have some runway and I had savings and investments and things that I can maneuver to make my time longer. I know not all people have that. And so I fault no one for going and getting a job. I think that the key here is if you can bet on yourself, I tell everyone you should. If that was the original move and it was all along to bet on you, keep going. Don't let that Sparta kick change your mind. Instead of free falling, start squirrel suiting, right? Start picking a direction on that free fall. And I think like that's probably the best advice I can give is like there is an ideal, but also when the ideal breaks down, sometimes the best thing to do is just dive headfirst in, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, and I don't think you want to live with regret knowing you could have done something and you had this idea that really could have gone and taken off.
Yeah.
So I think there is that part of it as well. So well, and I
Yeah.
appreciate that. And I do want to kind of end because I don't want to keep these podcasts too long, but I do want to just ask like how people can learn more about Seek. Happy to include any links to like the website and just follow kind of what you're building because I know you have a LinkedIn. I know we connect there. So
Yeah.
definitely
Yeah.
they can see follow your posts there, but just happy to leave the floor open just for how people can follow. I don't know if there's like a creator program, anything else people might want to know.
Yeah, seeq.ing is the simple website, Seeking. There is a creator program if you want to make money, if you are a local expert or a travel creator, if you're already putting out content, videos, carousels, any of that that is showing people what to do, where to do it, how to do it. Seek is for you. We're going to help you monetize while you sleep. And so I would love to see you there. And then for folks who just want to understand what to do more, where to go, what to do, Seek is going to be a beautiful tool for you to figure out what to do in your neighborhood or on your next travel. So, yeah, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Substack, but I think seeq.ing is where I'd love to send everybody.
Yeah, I appreciate it, John. It's been great talking to you.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks for having me. Great to catch up.